Hello, I'm Sam Stamus.
Hi, I'm EJ Scott.
And we'll be talking about precursors of dancing and singing to music in 3 to 4 months old infants. So this study was done in Japan, and it covered singing and dancing, specifically limb movement pertaining to music, and the auditory-motor coordination, and why it's important to humans and human culture. So researchers observed 3 to 4 months old infants with music as well as in silence, and researchers reported on both limb movement and vocalization by infants, and specifically they wanted to know if infants are already primed with their bodies to interact with music via limb movements and vocalization. Humans have been making music for a long time now. They've been engaging with it through singing and dancing for the last 35,000 years. And researchers want to expand the comprehension of early human developmental manifestations through the auditory-motor interactions. Previous studies have shown that neonates show cortical responses to pitch interval, tonal key, and musical beat. Another study showed that 6 to 9 month olds can discriminate between musical consonants and rhythm and meter. In regards to auditory-motor coordination, researchers Zentner and Irola could not find phase synchronization between an infant's limb and musical beat in 5 to 24 months olds, but however Condon and Sander could, and they were able to find synchronization of body movements of a neonate with an adult's speech. Even though speech is not the same as music, this study still suggests that the nervous system of a human infant is already primed with their bodies, potentially from day one. So there were 5 issues considered during the design of this study. Movement to music synchronization in 3 to 4 months old, so essentially the age group. And then second, group and individual analysis helped prevent individual differences. And then they looked at different limb movements, specifically the left, right arm, and left and right leg. And then number 4 was they conducted acoustic analysis, which helped determine infant vocalization. And then the 5th one was that they were able to determine the relationship between age and days, because some infants were 4 months and 3 days, or 5 months and a couple of days, so the days mattered.
So the methods behind this study: the participants were 107 healthy infants aged 3 to 4 months old, and they used 2 pop songs for the infants to listen to. One was Everybody by the Backstreet Boys, and the other was Go Trippy by Winoco. Each infant was laid on their back in their crib with little weights attached, not very heavy, and they were either in the condition where they would hear the song by Winoco, or they would hear the song by the Backstreet Boys, or they were just in the control and heard nothing. And what they had was the speaker was behind the bed, behind the baby, and it would play the music loud enough for them to hear, and they made sure that neither the instructor or the parents were within sight of the baby, and they watched the movements of the child. And they examined the amount of limb movement, the frequency of the limb movement, the detection beat onsets, the relative phase, the moving section, and the synchronization index.
So here are some of the results, and A shows the typical limb trajectories during the music condition of the infant, of the 3 to 6 month old infant. B, they look specifically at the right leg, and it's the sum of its right leg velocities in both the silent and the music conditions. C shows the relationship of right leg movements to musical tempo, and then D shows it in a different form, and E shows the right foot position, while F shows the mean synchronization index.
So this here is a graph of the vocalizations that they were looking at in the infants. The vocalizations that they were looking at, the first thing that they tested was to see the duration of each vocalization, and they didn't find any significance in the duration, as you can see it here in A, but what they did find significance in was for the difference in the mean and the standard deviations for the F1, F2, and the F against F0 time frames. So what they had happening was in the Wanko song, they saw that there was a bigger significance than there was when the babies were listening to everybody. Some of the things that they brought up in the discussion were that they found a significant phase synchronization of limb movement to the musical beat, and this was not found in groups. It was only found on an individual basis for specific babies, and they described this behavior as sporadic synchronization, and sporadic synchronization has also been seen in other species, such as cockatoos that will bob their heads to certain types of music but not to others. They have a preference for it, and in the group analysis they did not find any differences at all across the movement measures, but they did see a lot of difference on the individual level. So one baby may have shaked their arm and the other would shake their leg instead, and their thought is that this is caused by the subcortical system, which involves the brainstem and spinal cord. They also noticed a change in vocal quality wasn't found in the infants as a group when the music was present, but they did find a significant increase in the mean F0 and F1 when the infants listened to Go Trippy compared to everybody, which we saw on the previous graph. And they found that overall music does not facilitate spontaneous limb movements in most infants, but it does modulate vocalization. In conclusion, they found that striking does increase the amount of rhythmic limb movements, and they found that this is during their significant phase synchronization. This suggests that our brains are already primed when we are 3 to 4 months old, which supports a lot of previous theories, and it lies with in the notions that infant behaviors are developmental precursors for a unique human behavior. Thank you.
Thank you.